Hello, in history today, looking at the system of colonization. Looking at the direct and indirect rule. Direct rule is when an imperial or a central power takes direct control over the legislature, executive, and civil administration of an otherwise largely self-governing territory. That is the direct system of government, where in a territory whereby this was practiced by the British and French. Now, how the British practice their direct rule system was, they come into a territory that has an administrative power that is already in place. They remove these people totally from having any form of power over this territory Now they take total control of the civil, executive, legislative administration of this territory, and they govern these people alone, all by themselves. Some of the British colonies were ruled directly by the colonial office in London. Now let's look at the indirect system of colonization practiced by the British. Indirect rule is a form of colonization that involves the establishment of a centralized foreign authority within a territory, which is run by the colonial officials. The British and the French used this method to control parts of their colonial empires, particularly in Africa and Asia, through pre-existing local power structures. Now, in the indirect system of governance, the pre-existing powers will still be there. Now, the British will give command through these pre-existing powers, or these pre-existing administrative leaders. Then they will now report to, they will carry out this command and report to the British structures. By this system, the day-to-day government and administration of these areas, both small and large, was left in the hands of traditional rulers, who gained prestige and stability and protection in favor of European advisors, effectively overseeing the government of large numbers of people spread over extensive areas. Now, after the British gained control of the territories in Nigeria, Frederick Lugard visited Sokoto. Frederick Lugard was the High Commissioner of the Protectorate of Northern Nigeria from 1899 to 1906. In Sokoto, a caliphate conquered by the British Empire at the turn of the century. When Lugard visited Sokoto, he instituted a system whereby the external military and tax control was controlled by the British. It was operated by the British. After the Sokoto Caliphate was taken over by the British, was conquered by the British, when Frederick Lugard, who was now the commissioner of the Northern Empire, Northern Protectorate, when he visited Sokoto, he established a system whereby there was now an external military, and the tax control of this territory was operated by the British, while other aspects of life was left to the local pre-British aristocrats who may have supported the British during and after their conquest. So the British took control of the tax collection of the Sokoto Empire, and they also took control of the military. They were not using the local military, they used the external military, and this external military to control this empire. And then they left the other matters in the hands of the leading who were in control of these territories, who sided them during the time they were trying to conquer the Sokoto Caliphate. Now, after the British had taken control of the Nigerian territory, they started ruling the Nigerian territory using the indirect rule system. The indirect rule system enabled the British to exploit natural resources and raw materials in Nigeria. They established a naval military base at strategic points around territories to maintain the necessary power to underpin such control. So when the British started ruling Nigeria using the indirect rule system, they used the indirect rule system because there was an established ruling and established administrative power before they came in. And these people are the local, are the owners of Nigeria. They are Nigerians, and they know their territories, they know their people better than the British. So the British use them to enter these territories. With their help or with their cooperation, they were able to exploit the natural resources and raw materials in Nigeria. Then they also established naval and military bases in strategic points around these territories, so as to help them gain total control over these territories and avoid harassment by the local authorities or by the local indigenes of these territories. Let's look at the reason for the adoption of indirect rule system in Nigeria. One, it was to get the cooperation of the rulers. Remember, they ruled with the help of these traditional rulers. So without the help of these traditional rulers, they will not be able to enter into these territories, because these traditional rulers know their land, they know their territories. So they needed their cooperation to be able to enter into these territories to mine the natural resources in these territories. Another reason for the adoption of the indirect rule was it was a means of purifying the Nigerian institution. The British believed that some of the religious practices or traditional practices practiced in Nigeria was not good, like the slave trade and the killing of twins. So they saw it as a means to abolish some of these practices, some of these local beliefs or traditional beliefs in Nigeria. Another reason for the adoption of the indirect rule was the preservation of the custom and tradition of the Nigerians. So since it was still the people of these territories that were leading them, their traditions and customs were not abolished. So it also helped to preserve the customs and traditions of these people. Another reason was it also consolidated the British hold on Nigeria. It made the British hold on Nigeria to be very firm. Then there was persistence. It also helped to conquer the persistence suffered by the British in the past when they were trying to conquer this territory. It also prepared Nigerians for self-governance. This has brought us to the end of this discussion today. Let us go over to the assessment section. What is indirect rule? State 2 reasons for the indirect rule in Nigeria. Drop your answer in the comment section. That will be all for today. Thank you for watching. See you in our next demo.